So we are 36 now, and we will keep on welcoming participants to this session. I'll make a brief intro. My name is Raya Skogland. I'm the founder and CEO at the visionary company Aboard.no, where we do many things. We invest in scale-ups, we accelerate scale-ups, and we also run 3 intense days for board members and aspiring ones to help them elevate their board skills, understand the board work, build their network at a European level, and help them navigate the space to land a board position. So we cover every topic you need to cover in the boardroom: M&A, AI, crisis management, financials, as well as networking, a lot of networking tips, because this is how you actually get board positions, let's be honest. Personal branding as well. And we're going to be talking about a little bit of all of that. So with me, I'm super happy to have Ida, who's the founder of Aboard, a platform connecting board members and aspiring ones to board positions in Norway. And the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Raya. Aboard is a partner with the visionary company, so I'm really happy to be here together with you to talk about this very important topic. We are very often asked, how do I get board positions? And to be able to share some of our experience with you is great for us. As you introduced, we are currently in Norway, and we will have discussions about how if we will go abroad with this platform in the coming time. But for now, based in Norway. Aboard is a specialized platform just for board positions. We don't do any other recruitment, just board recruitment. And it's actually a tech company knowing recruitment rather than a recruitment company using a bit of technology. I'm one of the founders. We are 5 partners that started up this company. I started my venture into board positions in 1995. We have a family company. My father came to me and said, now you're educated, now you have a few years of work experience. I think it's good that you start to learn a bit about the company, because if something happens with me, someone needs to know. So that was actually my first entry. Since then, I have been in several different boards. I've always been interested in the board work, and it became very natural for us to start up a board because we saw a huge mismatch between what is actually available in the market of fantastic candidates for board positions, and they are never shown into the boardroom, because board positions usually are recruited in the personal network. And how do you then become part of that personal network? So we wanted to make a solution that goes beyond that opens up that network, that opens up to different opportunities to actually access the whole possibilities that we have in the society with fantastic people.
Mm. So let's start about networking then. So a very broad and open question. How can people land their board position? Where can they start? Is it the CV? Is it contacting headhunters? Is it via the network? How does it work?
Yeah. There's a lot of different angles, and you have to work all these different angles. But I usually start with saying you have to know yourself, because you have to know what can I offer. So one thing is the experience that you have, but in what areas do you have that experience? How do you use that experience into the boardroom, or how do you think you can use that experience into the boardroom? What sort of person are you? What are the ways that you like to work? Because if you go into a board position, you have to know that you can actually resonate in that group. So it's knowing yourself at many different levels, also understanding what are your interests, because sometimes your interests are different from what your experiences are, and other times your experiences sort of triggers your interests. So interests is a different dimension from experience, but still very valid into the boardroom.
So let's say I'm an expert in finances, in finance, and my interest is sustainability. I am a C-level executive in a medium-sized company. Where do I start? Where do I get my board position? How do I get that?
You start by actually going out there. I have too many people saying that I have to update my LinkedIn first. No, you don't have to. Go out there, start talking to people, start networking, because 87% of all recruitment awards are through networks. So start talking, put yourself out there, say that you want board positions, talk to your friends, talk to your network, make them spread the word. Then knowing yourself, it's easier to, prepare your pitch. You have to be able to talk about what can I contribute with into the boardroom. So the pitch, and you have to have the self-confidence to actually go out there and say, I want this. Then, of course, it's good to build additional competence, like you're running the board competence courses. One thing is to have that competence also on board and the sort of certificate that you have done this. But the other is that it creates a very good network.
Exactly.
So joining different courses, one thing is to add on the competence side, the networking part is equally or even more important, because most recruitment is through network. So, but also use LinkedIn. Use it to comment in areas of your expertise, in areas of your interest, in areas of board work. Engage in different conversations there. Go to events in relation where you think you can meet your colleague customer, those recruiting to board positions. So just start going out there and create that network and make yourself known in that space. And when you have your LinkedIn fairly updated, you can just put there that you're interested in board positions. Open for board positions, you can do that.
Yeah, like you say, it's a combination of many things. And unfortunately, if it was just easy to go to a headhunter and tell them, I am interested, do you have board positions? Here we are competing on competence with hundreds of other people who reached out to the same headhunter, right? Or this is, if you are only trying to get a board position based on your CV or an agency, it is not enough. It's a great way. It's a strategy amongst others. Like you say, it's a combination of different things. One is, of course, getting in touch with headhunters, with companies, but also, like you say, building your network. And building your network happens offline, at events, in communities, in courses, and online. Online main platform would be, let's say, LinkedIn, for professionals. So online, how do you build your network? Building your brand, building your presence, starting to write content on governance, on problems that growing companies are facing, starting to profile yourself as an advisor, with board member. This is also how I do it. You build your brand online, and this is how opportunities come to you inbound. And when you do an outreach, when you actually reach out to a company you're interested in that is aligned with your interests, let's say finance and sustainability, then you have a more credible profile, because probably they've seen your content, or maybe they've seen your content, or if they haven't seen your content, your brand, they will go on your LinkedIn and they will see that you have credibility, you're engaging in topics, you are exchanging with others, you're sharing your knowledge, you're positioning yourself as a top leader. So different strategies, it's not only one,
no,
it's different to combine.
It's many different, and you have to combine them to actually promote yourself in this space. And in terms of competence, on the board covers so many different topics. So you have to show that you have specialized competence in some specific areas, like you mentioned sustainability, for example. But you also have to show that you have the breadth, or the width. So make sure that you promote both sides, not just your one specialized deep dive competence, but that you actually know the whole business area.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's important to remember board work is a very large scope of different issues. Yeah. And problem solving, question techniques, etc., are also very important in the boardroom. So to make sure that you think about, how do I actually show these type of skills, and they are not competence skills, they are more sort of personal skills. So make sure that you use when you're trying to build your renommé,
your reputation,
have those areas also included, and that's why I started talking about you have to know yourself and then use that to communicate out.
Yeah, actually, one of the sessions we have in our training is self-awareness, and another one we will have in May will be on how to it's not empower, it's like empower, how to find the power within and know yourself, so you can show up in the boardroom with confidence, but also understand the dynamics. So we talk a lot, we have sessions on board dynamics. These are like you say, it's a broad topic, and it's not, we cannot, if we applying to a board position and thinking that, we're applying to this company that is within sustainability, and my expertise is sustainability and finance, it's enough, I am a fit. No, you really have to understand what it means to be a board member, what is board work, and actually understand all the different topics that are covered in a boardroom. Otherwise, it makes us not relevant and effective in a boardroom. So
when you sort of done this empowerment, use that and then articulate in a board CV, for example, what am I good at? What can I contribute with? What sort of results have I made in my career? If you have been in boardrooms before, what is your board experience? How did you contribute? And how did you actually also help that board work improve and become more value creating? So having an understanding and sort of a deep dive in yourself to actually articulate what is my contribution on all these areas, that should be in your board CV. And a board CV is very different from a normal CV.
So let's talk about the board CV then. Yeah. How do we structure a board CV?
Well, you have to, what type of businesses have you been involved in? Businesses go through different phases from, you talked about, from startup to scale up to grown up, but then you also have different phases in the grown up phase. So if you're in a drastic, growth phase, or if you're in a cost cutting phase, these are all different phases, and you need to have board members that understand or can contribute in these different phases. So you have to also then write something about that in your CV in terms of, for a company to understand your experience, you have to actually combine these different elements. Yeah.
Because it is different working on the board of a startup. It's different than working on a board of a scale-up or a corporate company. And this is again based on my experience, some of the worst matches that I have seen, it's somebody who works in a large company, established company, and goes on the board of a young company, because let's be honest, it's easier to start on a board of a startup, of a scale-up. And actually, if this is your first experience, it's a great place to start, because you can build your network with startups. They really need you. They really need people. It's a great place to have the first board position. Now, if you come from a big company and you have certain expectations, working with a startup is very different. Working with a startup, you have to roll up your sleeves. They're basically looking for people to help them build the business. So it's also understanding, going with the right expectations and having self-awareness, knowing this is a young company. I cannot sit on the board and just ask questions and reports. This is a young company. I have to roll up my sleeves. Or working for a big company is a different game than a young company, obviously.
Yeah. And of course, the areas covered in the boardroom is very different in those two segments. And I would also actually say, if to go into your first board position in a startup, that is quite risky. you don't necessarily have the experience, and you don't necessarily have the experience to actually evaluate whether the risk of going into this company is within your limits. So advisories for startups
Yes,
is
agreed.
a very good idea.
Start as a mentor or advisor before going into a board position.
And to get to learn and understand the company. The first board position, if you have the pick of everything, I would go to a more grown, mature company where the board is good, so that you actually learn good board processes, and then you can bring that into other types of startups or scale-ups, or but you know, being sort of under the wings in a good functioning board is a very good learning process. So I would actually start there rather than in the startup, because they don't necessarily have the good board experience.
It's chaos. I totally agree with you. Simply, it is easier to start with a startup because they need help. But of course, it's extremely important to do due diligence and start as a mentor or as an advisor before committing, and because there are liabilities, there are risks in becoming a board member. And of course, with startups, the risk is higher. So,
and also with the startups, you know, that is passion. It's fun. There's a lot of energy going into that. So that is, you know, on the interest part of knowing yourself, you know, that can create a lot of good energy and a lot of passion into the board work. So you get that much more there, probably.
I will feel free to start sharing your questions in the chat. I will open my chat and look at it regularly, so we can answer your questions along the way. So we covered, I mean, the network is extremely important, attending events, communities, programs, certificates, and so on, branding yourself online, creating content, engaging in conversations where you position yourself as a board member, as an advisor, learning, of course, start reading about governance, start elevating your board skills. Then we talked about knowing yourself, so you can find the right match. CV, can we elaborate a little bit more on the CV? I mean, it's a wide topic. It would require a big workshop, but
yeah, it is a wide topic. I think you have some pointers on it. But start with knowing yourself, and if you think about, you know, how do I reason around strategy? What network do I have? What contacts can I offer to this company? How do I evaluate risk? Where am I in terms of innovation? What is my experience in terms of innovation? What is my understanding around compliance and governance? So those are areas that is very good to reason through in terms of this knowing yourself. And then just remember, knowing yourself, knowing your interests. And the last part is actually your availability. So in terms of interest also, you know, do I prefer private sector or public sector, NGOs? Where is there any specific area? Is it a sort of building industry, or is it retail industry, or you know, what type of areas? So these things are very good then to articulate. And then another, I'm jumping a bit on the topic, because in the boardrooms, I'm very concerned with, since we're recruiting so much in personal networks. So when you're in position, it's good to then, you know, ask the company about, you know, what is their actual need? What do they foresee as the biggest challenges going forward? What is the competence that they're missing? Where is the current board weak? How can you and you know, improve that board. So these are questions that I would use to sort of challenge in terms of what sort of board composition is needed.
Mhm. Yes, because it's also about when we know ourselves and our competence and what we can contribute, we can also target the companies better.
Yes.
And start challenging them.
Yes.
So feel free to reach out to the companies you admire and you will work with and ask questions about how they run their company. Reach out directly to the founders or the CEO and offer first, I would say, offer your help. Ask questions. That already will help.
Yeah, and if you think, you know, this company or these companies I'm interested in, make your pitch and try and find out, you know, who is the board of who is the chairman of the board, who are the board members, who do you know that know some of them. LinkedIn is fantastic in terms of, you know, helping to use that network and then to access it, because you know, one of the issues here is that you are not necessarily in that network at the right place and time. So how do you make yourself known in those networks?
Yeah. I can give an example and then we can start taking questions from the audience. I can give an example about the board position I have at Melbye-Larsen, the Norwegian Business Angel Association. So of course I have board position in my investment companies, in my own companies and so on, but this one I really wanted. So this has been relationship building for years.
Yeah.
And this is honest. I know the chairman, but I also wanted to watch how they're operating. So for a while, I actually knew the chairman and I knew the previous chairman. And I was interested in contributing, but also in the organization. I'm an angel investor. This is the Angel Investor Association of Norway. Makes sense for me, and I can contribute with my knowledge. So I reached out to him and I said, I am interested in how is it going? And I am interested in joining your board. He's like, yeah, okay, it's simple as let me discuss it with the rest of the team. As simple as this. A few months later, we discussed it again. And at that time, I really already, I have done my due diligence from outside and I really wanted to get into the position. So a few months later, he got back and said, well, we discussed it internally and we are also interested. So let's start to agree on what you would be contributing with and so on and so on. And because I already had a strong personal brand on LinkedIn, I didn't really have to elaborate on that. And he was on top of that. He was a relationship I knew for many, many years. This is how it works. This is reality. Build your network with people you want to work with in the future. Build your brand so you don't have to explain to companies, those who hire you, what you do, how you can contribute. They already know. They've already seen you on LinkedIn.
And of course, working with board recruitments, we are a platform offering anyone to register for free. So we promote the candidates that we have, and we actually post all board recruitments openly in both on LinkedIn and on our platform. And then those candidates that feel that this fits, they can then say they're interested in this board position. So, you know, I'm saddened that we have to use so much time to work in networks to find board positions. You know, for me, it would be much better if you actually got the professional help. And so in all the work that we do, we try to help the companies become better in understanding the questions that they should ask, because just going in your personal network does not necessarily give you the best candidates, and they're not measured to other candidates. So to get the professionalism into the board recruitment, or at least some more professionalism, at the same time allowing or recognizing that at the board level, a lot of the people recruiting for board positions, they have done a lot of recruitment. So they don't necessarily need a recruiter sitting and holding their hand. So allowing for them to do what they are good at still, but providing a much greater possibilities of candidates.
And same for candidates. It's great to have access to different more opportunities than they can
Yes.
access via the network.
Yes.
So maybe I'll start with the questions from Lydia. Can you list some qualities boards and companies are looking for in a board member?
There's many different qualities, and I think, you know, the starting point is actually what is it that the business needs? And the businesses are so different, and where they are in their development is so different, and what areas they are working in is so different. So it's very difficult to sort of say some quite specific things, but the requirements for compliance is increasing in all areas. So understanding that sustainability is an issue, and it's not in the boardroom. It's not a reporting issue anymore. It's you know, how do we run the business type of issues. So understanding and how to relate sustainability into the business operation is very important. Digitalization, AI, technology in all areas. You know, it can be robotics, it can be sensors, there's a lot of areas within the technology scope. And a lot of boards need to sort of increase their competence in these areas. So those are some very, you know, easy takes. But then it's also qualities in terms of how do we help this as board member, how do we help the discussions in the boardroom? So these are more on the personal level. How do you interact with the rest of the board? How do you help the board sort of doing the best work they can within the, you know, getting the group dynamics to actually, you know, grow and improve. And those are, you know, totally different variables than tech and
it's soft and
sustainability.
hard skills.
Yes. So it's a combination of both.
Exactly. Actually, our program, we designed it in that way, where we have day 1 hard skills, day 2 soft skills, and day 3 practical hands-on situations in boardrooms, solving crisis within the boardrooms. So I hope this is I hope this helps, Lydia. It's different competence, it's different qualities from hard skills to soft skills. What's from Andrew? You want to add something else?
No, I'm fine. I think Andrew's question, we
Yes.
haven't touched the compensation
Let's do
part.
Yeah.
And board compensations is a very difficult issue because...
So Andrew is asking, I'm reading the question, I'm not sure if the audience can read it. What's the typical most appropriate way to approach compensation discussions in the context of the first board position?
So during the process of discussing a board position, it's natural that compensation comes up as part of that. If those recruiting to the board do not bring it up, it's okay to also ask, you know, what is the kind of compensation that is thought of in terms of that. Board compensation can be in very many different ways. It can be that you're paid for the board work. It can be that you get shares. But it can also be other elements that, you know, okay, joining this board, you develop your CV, you get the experience, or it can be that the company is doing a lot of activities that you can participate in that again helps build your brand. Can be, you know, events or different things where you have an interest that sort of it nurtures to your interest. So these are all different elements that you sort of have to evaluate in terms of, it has to be measured in terms of, am I willing to use my time and the risk connected to the board in terms of that, whatever compensation, and that might be soft compensation. So you have to sort of measure these things. What are the requirements? What are the expectations? And what do you actually gain from it, from what you have to get? But it's
If you can give some numbers.
yeah, but it's actually impossible to give some numbers,
Yeah.
because it's from 0 to several hundred thousand NOK, depending on the type of company,
the country,
where you're at in the process, etc. So it's very individual, but on the other hand, it's normal that chairman gets at least double of what board members get. And it's also normal that board members have the sort of same compensation.
Based on my experience. So, and let me just give an example. Last program in September, we had a board member, highly experienced female board member, who joined to share her experience. And she said, we had this question. So what about compensation? We went into a few details, but what I remember is that she said, it's either you talk to my heart or you talk to my wallet.
Yeah.
So if you talk to my heart, she's big on sustainability. So if you talk to her heart, she's gonna accept maybe equity, sweat equity. Board members, what I have seen in advisors, it can be 1 to 2%. But again, it depends on how they contribute, how much time they put in, what's the setup with them. Then if you speak to the wallet, look at your hourly rate, and you look also at the company. Can they afford actually that hourly rate?
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. So it's a discussion. It's a marketplace, supply and demand, and find what you are okay with. Maybe it's sweat equity, because you really believe in that company, you want to be part in the long term. Sometimes you invest, and this is how you get in to a board position. You can ask for a board position, or you are a paid board member because the company is more established and can actually afford you, and maybe doesn't have the opportunity to give you equity, or doesn't want to give you equity, or maybe you just want to take that time together to figure out if it's worth it to get equity.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree. And so it's all back to, is it depending on what is required to do this job? What am I okay with accepting as remuneration? That's how you balance it. And you also have to be able to then say, no.
Not interested.
Not interested. Yep.
Okay, we have another question here. Being on a board of a non-profit is obviously different than non-executive director. What would you recommend for transitioning from non-profit to for-profit?
The board work in non-profits are just the same as board work in profits.
And how to access them is the same way.
It's the same way. But in non-profits, it can be sort of that they have to select members to the board from a sort of membership group. So that is a bit different. But it's there's some different legal requirements in terms of what they have to report on and etc. And that also varies from country to country, but it's the work is the same.
The risks are different.
The risks are different.
Yeah. So it's good to know about the risks and come in with the right competence to be able to evaluate the risks and contribute in the right direction. From another participant, how much time would you allocate for a board position for a compensated position? Is there time requirements in general or milestones to be achieved?
In Norway, it's normal to have in normal companies that you have 4 to 6 board meetings a year. How long they are, it depends. And usually you have one sort of day or 2 days with strategy workshops. Some companies would like you to participate on different events that they're doing as part of the board work. In terms of the compensation, we discussed compensation. There's so many different ways to be compensated. So it's not
straightforward.
It's not straightforward, but milestones is usually not used as a sort of pinpoint. It takes board work is both quick and slow, so it's difficult to have remuneration based on milestones. You could say that you'll get paid if we reach certain strategic goals, but normally it's more for the yearly time, because the time stretch for a strategy period is too long, I think, to actually put the time in and not knowing the results on the other hand.
This actually makes me think of another question we didn't plan to cover today. So how can the CEO or the rest of the board evaluate the new board member on their contribution? When do we know this one doesn't contribute anymore or enough, and it's time to let them go? So in the end, it's important for a new board member to understand what they need to contribute with.
Yes, and new board members should always spend time both with the CEO and the chairman of the board to make sure that get onboarded properly in the board work, and you should, if the board is not already doing it, to have good board evaluations underway. More sort of in depth, that you cover the board work in a great, not just asking, was this a good meeting? Yes or no. That is not a board evaluation in my mind, but to actually discuss, how are our work processes? Is it clear what decisions we're making? Is there, how can we improve the way we work? Is there other strategic discussions that we should be having that we don't have? Do we have the right competence for the company? And sometimes it's not something wrong with the person that came in. It might be something wrong with some of the others that have been there too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A topic for another time.
Yes.
We also covered that during our board training. We can spend many days covering how to do due diligence and what to expect and so on. Another question. Thank you so much for great advice. Thank you for joining us. I would like to support the question of Rana, going from long experience of non-profit organizations over to for-profit. How would you recommend that transition? I think it goes back to what we mentioned about building your network with the right people, reaching out to people you want to work with, building your personal brand, shifting the focus from non-profit to for-profit, and connecting, obviously, to companies, platforms who can introduce you to for-profit organizations.
And it's starting with board work. Non-profit organizations is a very good place to start learning the board work, and it gives you credibility and it builds your CV in terms of board work. So that's actually a very good, you mentioned startups, but NGOs is also a very good place to start. Yeah.
And we have one more question. Can you please highlight the language barriers for board positions in Norway? Is fluent Norwegian a must?
No, it's not.
Can I answer as well? Yes, it is. No, it's not, but a little bit. It does. I mean, I will share this brief story. A big accounting company reached out to me, I think a few weeks ago, and the message was on LinkedIn. Thank you. I built my brand for a reason. So they reached out and they said, your profile would fit perfectly our company. And I know the company. I even know the founder, but he left a few years ago. Now it's a big accounting company, and it would have been amazing. But then I asked, first of all, his message was in Norwegian. I answered in English, and I said, would that be a problem if it's in English? And obviously it is a problem because the board speaks in Norwegian. They would have to change their whole communication for me. So it depends on the company. It depends if it's an international company or if it's a local company, still big but local, then it is a problem. So pick your battle, learning Norwegian, not learning.
There are companies that, the board can be in Norwegian or in English, doesn't matter. They're sort of bilingual. But it's a good question to ask, but also I've experienced companies willing to change to English if that is the right candidate. So for them, it really doesn't matter. But when you have, for example, employee representatives, it can be difficult to change from Norwegian to English in the boardroom. And it depends also, if they manage to do board material in English, because that also, that will be a requirement for the whole organization in terms of creating the necessary documents for the boardroom. One thing is the language you're discussing in, but it's also creating the underlying documents for the different issues raised in the board. So it's, but there are companies where this is not a problem. There are companies where this is a big problem. So
I'm interested in the companies for whom it's not a problem.
Yes. So we always ask the companies, is it necessarily that the language in the boardroom is Norwegian, or is it possible with English? So we also try to articulate if it's not necessary to speak Norwegian.
I think we have, we're getting to the end. We can take one last question or two. I hope that you got answers to your questions, that we try to cover every point we promised to cover. This was a short, intense session as an introduction, and of course, sign up to Aboard to access board opportunities in Norway for now.
Yes, for now.
And reach out to me if you are interested in elevating your governance and board skills, hard skills, soft skills as well, and get and build your network, because this is what we do. During 3 days, you get an opportunity to build your network at the European level with partners from EY, BCGX, KPMG, other highly experienced board members coming from Luxembourg, UK, Norway. We have participants signing up right now from Estonia, Finland. It's really a European audience of highly motivated, talented, and inspiring individuals getting together to learn and build a network. Thank you, Thea, for sharing the link. It's in the chat.
And like I said, doing courses, it's also to create network. So it's one thing is to add to your competence. And what I like about your program is that it's not only the rules and regulations in terms of how the boardroom should work, but it's actually practical work on how do we contribute, how do we develop this boardroom. So yeah,
it's very, very practical.
Yes.
We have one last question from Iceland. How about location? I, for example, lived 17 years in Norway and I have a network there, but now I live in Iceland. How is it to get board positions in Norway from Iceland?
Iceland shouldn't be any worse than going from Tromsø to Oslo, if that is, or the other opposite way. Again, it's all related to the company, the competence and what you bring in, and that the company is interested in you as the board candidate. So it's geography is not necessarily a showstopper. There's companies that want board members from Sweden, Norway. Yeah, so it's international companies in Norway might need a Norwegian, not that international company, Norwegian companies that are, for example, looking to go abroad, might want someone with that sort of knowledge in that board. So everything boils down to what is the need of the company for the future, and to get that board correct for actually managing to go into that future. And that is what we're looking for, always.
Thank you for today. Thank you, everyone. I will send this via email, the recording, so you have access to it. And we wish you a beautiful day.
Yes.
We stay in touch. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining.